You know, one of the things that I will probably never understand, and probably is something that is proof that we are living in the dumbest timeline imaginable, is that Donald Trump riled up a mob of his supporters on January 6th, and he sent them down to the Capitol to stop a free and fair election with violence. And instead of holding him accountable for his role in the events of that day, we turned around as a country and said, yeah, let's give that guy another shot as president. And then when he got into office, he proceeded to give everybody involved in the attack that day pardons, whether they were violent or whether they were not violent. And that story on its own would just be absolutely insane. But then you realize the story is getting even worse, because the Trump administration, they've decided to pay Ashli Babbitt's family $5 million of your tax dollars and mine. So basically, we have a United States government that is endorsing violence as long as it's carried out in the name of MAGA. And, you know, I think one of the most disturbing things about all of this is that Donald Trump and the MAGA lunatics have been trying to rewrite history as to what actually went down that day. They tried to say that Ashli Babbitt was doing nothing wrong. She was just a peaceful protester. So let's go ahead and take a look and get a quick reminder of what Ashli Babbitt was actually doing that day. And this video also goes over just a few details of this wrongful death settlement. So if you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
This security video shows Ashli Babbitt, followed by others in the mob.
On tape, the last moments of Ashli Babbitt's life. This is the shot that killed her, fired by Capitol officer Michael Byrd as she tried to climb through a broken window during the January 6th insurrection. Along with dozens of rioters, she'd been trying to storm the House chamber to stop the certification of the 2020 US presidential election by members of Congress. The Justice Department's decision to settle a wrongful death lawsuit brought by her family for nearly $5 million marks a turnaround. Michael Byrd was initially cleared of wrongdoing by both the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia and Capitol Police. He says he'd warned her before firing. An investigation carried out by Capitol Police said the officer's actions had potentially saved members of Congress from serious injury and even death at the hands of the rioters. But ever since, her death has been a rallying call for Capitol rioters and die-hard supporters of Donald Trump.
Yeah, so am I happy that Ashli Babbitt was fatally shot that day? Of course not. Would I ever wish that on a MAGA supporter? Of course not. But if there was ever a justified police shooting, it was this one. She was part of a violent mob who stormed the Capitol. They broke down doors, they smashed out windows, and they get close to Congress, where you've got a door separating a mob of people and a whole bunch of Congress members who are fearing for their life, and then that window gets smashed out. Ashli Babbitt tries to crawl through that window, where she was fatally shot. If there was any justified police shooting, it was this one. And yes, it was tragic, and we wished it would have never happened. But that is just not how things unfolded. And now you've got a Trump administration who has decided to pay out a wrongful death lawsuit, even though the police officer involved in the shooting was cleared by 2 different investigations. I think the Capitol Police did their own investigation, and then I think the DOJ did their investigation. And it showed that he had every right to carry out the gunshot in the way that he did. It's all insane. And Harry Dunn, which is a police officer who was serving that day, he recently went on to CNN to discuss this, and he brings up a really good point. What kind of message are we sending to the country and to the rest of the world if we have a president of the United States who is engaged in condoning this type of behavior?
We checked. We tried to see, were there officers who were injured, those who died as a result of their injuries or other aspects of their service on January 6th? Did they get anything? No settlements for those folks.
Not even money, but just even an acknowledgement. I'm just thinking about Brian Signick. His mother still waiting for a call from the president. Look, under no circumstances, should anybody's death be celebrated or somebody lost their daughter, somebody lost a sister or mother, and it's unfortunate that somebody lost their life there. But what message does it send that an individual, if she lived, she would have been charged. She would have been charged with a crime. She would have been a criminal. What message does that send out there to not just everyday citizens, but to people other criminals at the Capitol who may have been sprayed by police or may have been hit by police? Do they get to sue and now be rewarded because their record's clean with Donald Trump pardoning them?
Yeah, he's exactly right. What kind of message are we sending to the rest of the world? What kind of message are we sending to the rest of the people in our country? I mean, just think about all of the normies who don't necessarily follow politics that closely. They watched January 6th unfold on TV just like everybody else. Everybody saw with their own two eyes as history was made that day. And now you have a president of the United States who is turning around and paying the family of one of the people who engaged in violence that day. It is just absolutely grotesque. And then you think about all of the police who were injured that day, nearly 140 police officers who were injured that day. They didn't get any settlements. They're still waiting for a phone call from Donald Trump. And you even had police officers who later died due to the events of that day, and they're not honored in any way. I mean, Republicans can barely look these police officers in the eye. Donald Trump is for sure not going to look these people in the eye, because as long as you're carrying out violence in the name of MAGA, well, then you're A-okay. It is just, it's all backwards. I mean, we've lost the plot here in the United States, and I just don't think that any of this is really by accident when it comes to the MAGA folks, right? Donald Trump wants to instill fear in the rest of the country. If you say the wrong thing, if you do the wrong thing, if you post the wrong thing, well, maybe you should be fearful that you might have a group of MAGA lunatics show up to your doorstep and give you an ass whooping. That is the intent here. Donald Trump is basically establishing his own group of brown shirts, that as long as you are carrying out violence in the name of Donald Trump, then it's fine. I mean, this is another feather in the cap of this whole fascism thing that we have been talking about. They want to instill fear on society with the use of violence. And Cornel West goes on to say, well, if you got a Trump administration who is doing this, what does that say for the rest of our rules-based order?
But I think the sad thing is when you have larger patterns of might makes right, of Pontius Pilate over Jesus, of Thrasymachus over Socrates. People figure it's all transaction, it's all manipulation, it's all the survival of the slickest. Once you have that dominant in your society, after a while, it doesn't make any difference what's on the books, because nobody is taking the book seriously anyway. Rule of law doesn't mean that much. Constitution doesn't mean that much. Quality relations doesn't mean that much.
Harry,
conversations don't mean that.
Do you feel that way?
Again, he's exactly right. If you have somebody who engaged in violence on January 6th, they ended up getting fatally shot because of their involvement in that violent mob, and then you've got a president that turns around and says that her family deserves to be paid $5 million of taxpayer money, what does that mean for the rest of us? You are eroding trust in the system, which has been a concerted effort by the MAGA movement for quite some time. They have been trying to erode trust in our institutions. And this is just another way for them to do that. And especially because we know the Trump administration, ever since he's been in office, they could care less about the rule of law. They've been challenged in the Supreme Court. They've been handed 9-0 decisions against them, and Donald Trump just goes about his day. They're talking about suspending habeas corpus. They've stripped away due process rights away from folks. They're sending people to gulags in El Salvador. All lawless behavior. What are people supposed to think? We can't trust that our system is going to be there to hold others accountable if they are acting in the name of MAGA or Donald Trump. And that is a dangerous, dangerous place for our society to be in. It's just, it's a total erosion of our rules-based order, because we do not have a president that respects the rule of law and is encouraging and condoning violence in his name. It is just wild. I just don't even have any other words for it. And I'm so disgusted that our taxpayer dollars are paying a family of somebody who was killed in maybe the most justified police shooting ever. That is just insane to me. And this is coming from a party that supposedly backs the blue. They back the military. But if you don't vote for Trump, well, then maybe that support is not there any longer, which is what Harry Dunn says here.
Last week being National Police Week, the White House tweeted whatever it is, we support and will never betray our men and women in law. Which ones? The ones that voted for you? Like this is about right and wrong. And like you could turn off all the talking heads, you can turn off all the news, everybody's opinion about January 6th. Hell, watch it on mute. Just press play. Just press play. Everybody watched and had a front row seat to watch what happened with Ashli Babbitt, to watch what happened to everybody in the Capitol that day. You don't need anybody's opinion. Just press play. And anybody that can side with those individuals, they got the nerve to call themselves patriots, and they were right. They're attempting to rewrite what happened that day, and that continues with Donald Trump, with this Justice Department awarding Ashli Babbitt's family $5 million. That is coming from taxpayer money. Ashli Babbitt wouldn't have been there if Donald Trump would have accepted that the election was not stolen. So maybe Donald Trump should pay that $5 million himself instead of the American people.
Yeah, I tend to agree with him. Would Ashli Babbitt still be here today if Donald Trump didn't rile up his supporters months in advance before the election saying, oh, this election's going to be out of control, it's going to be rigged, they're coming for me? Then you got the conspiratorial lunatics like Ashli Babbitt who buy into this nonsense, and then they show up on January 6th to stop a free and fair election because Donald Trump had been so dishonest with his supporters up until that point. And because he is such a petulant man-baby who can't stand the thought that he actually lost, he encouraged that mob of supporters to attack the Capitol that day to stop a free and fair election. And I think what Harry Dunn said here as some sort of exercise is quite powerful. Go find some of the footage from January 6th. Just put it on mute if you have to. And watch what occurred that day. We all saw it with our own two eyes. We saw all the police officers being beat to a pulp that day. Some of them lost their fingers. Some of them lost their lives. Some of them, I think one of them lost an eyeball. It was brutal. We all know that what we saw that day was wrong. But the Trump administration, the MAGA movement, like he said, they're trying to rewrite history to make this okay. We cannot let them do that. Donald Trump has been attempting to do this ever since it happened, right? They have been rewriting history. Republicans used to stand up and say, hey, that was actually a bad thing that went down on January 6th. Now, none of them even talk about it. They say, oh, it's not a big deal. They were just peaceful protesters. And now you've got Donald Trump using taxpayer money, $5 million, to pay the family of Ashli Babbitt. It is a concerted effort to erode the trust in our system. It's a concerted effort to make sure that everybody knows, as long as you are committing violence in the name of Donald Trump or the MAGA movement, well, then Donald Trump has got your back. We have devolved so far as a country thanks to Donald Trump. We got to stand up and push back against this nonsense any chance we get. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share it with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that helped Donald Trump rewrite history when it comes to January 6th, day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, it is free. And if you guys want to see how the toddler tyrant had an absolute meltdown in the Oval Office as he tried to force others to live inside his conspiratorial brain, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now, because it is one that you will not want to miss. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.